Welcome,
Hey
everybody.
everyone, welcome to the first ever Return the Jewels podcast. This is our first podcast, as I just mentioned, I think, and we have an exciting first guest for you. We were supposed to be interviewing Samir Naseem, who's a stand-up comic, and he's done great things across the board. And
Is
did I
this?
say welcome to the first podcast?
Did you? I assume you wanted to do the intro when you jumped in. I was just gonna like
Oh, dude, my bad. I thought I just did
you.
the intro.
No, I mean you actively jumped in. I think you wanted to do this, so it's like I'll let you.
No, I let you. I
You
let
drive the ship.
you.
Drive the boat.
You do the thing. You do the thing. You do the thing.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah. No. Go ahead. No. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the first ever fan. See, now I don't even know where we are. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the first ever Return the Jewels podcast. My name is Love Agarwal. This is my co host and producer,
Fani, Ari.
Fani Ari. And we are a new podcast. You've probably seen the brand. Maybe you've seen the shirts. Uh, but it's Return the Jewels. You've seen our merch. We're on social media. You can find us anywhere. We've got like a teaser video up. But today is our first podcast, and we get into a lot of things. We got a pretty cool guest, a very close friend of mine. His name is Samir Naseem. He's a comedian. So Fani mentioned him earlier when he was doing the intro. But his name is Samir Naseem. He's a comedian. He used to be in the hip hop world. He's a corporate marketing executive person, strategist, just like a very impressive guy. And people, if you're watching, maybe you can kind of infer a sort of like guidebook to help with whatever you're going through. But we do get into some cool topics. Like we have a segment that we run called Tokenize or Fetishize. You'll see it. You'll see our first one. We talk about his life in hip hop and comedy and how he navigated those worlds. We talk about diversity and representation and narratives. And, you get into writing, and then there's like Hollywood and everything, and just how different people are portrayed in different marginalized communities. And then we get into like a fun bit about, talking about the Ganga River and, the appropriation that comes with, the spirituality and all the stuff associated with that. But, it's going to be a pretty good interview. And so, we're here for you.
Pretty good. I mean, I think it's going to be an excellent interview.
Yeah.
But it's my opinion.
You don't want to mention the thing about the catfish?
The catfish? Oh, yeah, the catfish, of course. And the turtle. Don't forget the turtle.
There was no mention of the turtle. Anyways, we had scripted this kind of intro. So Fani was going to jump in at the end and be like, hey, don't forget the thing about the catfish. But anyways, in the interview, you'll see. There's this really cool thing. It's not cool. It's wild. There's a thing about catfish and, subsequent reading and stuff to look up on. We'll have it all linked and ready. But anyways, here is the interview with first ever Return the Jewels podcast, our interview with Samir Naseem. Enjoy. You've seen him. He's lived in the hip hop world. He's in the comedy world, and probably a lot of other worlds. But I guess we're gonna learn about it. And he's brown as shit. So.
Yes, thanks for having me, dude.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. And I know this is your first time meeting Fani. We introduced him earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, man.
So I want to start, I guess, generally talking about, microaggressions and kind of like what it's like growing up here. Because I know, well, actually, we don't know who's watching yet, but I'm assuming the people that watch will be younger and, first generation. And they just kind of, are trying to fit in. So it'd be nice to get stories from older people or older people that are doing well in their industries to, let them know what it was like growing up and let them know that their experiences are not so unique that that they should feel isolated.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah, man.
So I think we could start with a segment that we've been thinking about called, and I think I prepped you before maybe, but the segment called Tokenized or Fetishized. want you to give us like a personal anecdote, if you can think of one, in which you're either tokenized or fetishized, because we kind of want to explore the differences between the two, because there is a fine nuance between being tokenized and fetishized. And I feel like a lot of first generation people can pick up on that nuance, but it's very hard for them to articulate it. So let's try to create that space for it. So do you have any time in your past that you can think of where you're either tokenized or fetishized, and maybe explain to us why?
Oh yeah, man. Like 100 different times, but I think one of the best ones was in high school. This kid was like, "Oh, Indian people are good at math," and was trying to cheat off me in math class. And so like we had a multiple choice exam, but like you would have like a piece of paper to do the work, to do like the math work, and then like you would answer on multiple choice.
Yeah.
And I noticed that this guy was trying to cheat off of my like work, so I lightly like put in like the wrong answers and like on my sheet, and they were like, this dude was like looking over and like copying it. And then right before the exam ended, I went through and like erased all of them and put the right answers in. And he fucking failed the exam and was so pissed. He was like a dumb jock.
Did
And, oh, what were you saying?
I was like, did he call you out or anything?
Yeah, he was like, I thought you were good at math. Like when the grade came back, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I never said I was. And he was like, you failed, right? And I was like, not at all, man. I got like a 92. Why? What happened? And he was like, I was fucking cheating off your thing. And I failed. I was like, yo, you must be bad at like reading from like that far away or whatever. I don't know what happened. Like, it was tight. And it was like instant karma, you know what I mean?
And then his dad sent him to military school.
No, he became like a used car dealer or something after school.
After military school?
Yeah, for military school.
Okay. That has happened to me too. And nobody said anything, but I remember having to put like throwing misdirection in my answers before.
Yeah. Yes, you're like, it's like true or false, and you're like, well, that's false, of course. And then later on, you're like, no, I'm just kidding, it was true, and just like replace it.
Yeah, especially in like math competitions where they do the thing where we're like trained to put misdirection on our work just in case people were looking over.
Yeah, it's tight. You can also do like the just shutout where you just put your hand, like the paper is here and the pencil's here, and you just put your hand and cup it so that like they can't see what you're writing. I love that shit. The shutout.
This thing?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So, what do you think? Were you being tokenized or fetishized?
Tokenized.
Tokenized.
Yeah, and partially like fetishized as being like a math lord,
Yeah,
which I do enjoy math, I'm not gonna lie.
potentially. It's so practical.
Yeah.
It's so pragmatic. There's no double guessing.
Yeah.
There's no anxiety with math. What?
I mean, I grew up like as an Indian. This might be like strange. It's definitely strange. It's something that I like deal with a lot. I have a ton of math anxiety. Like I'm not that good at math. Like, you know, when I moved here, I just kind of stopped using my brain and started using a calculator like everybody else. So I had this like kind of like purity thing where I was cheating off of like white kids because I thought they were better at math. Like when I and you know my grades kind of reflected that for a while, and
That's great.
I just didn't really understand what was happening. And to be honest, I just like I still kind of struggle, you know, the math thing. And but I was always kind of good at spelling. My thing was always spelling.
Yeah, we are empirically good at spelling. I think our representation is off the charts in terms of like the National Spelling Bee.
Yeah.
Is any
Scripps is like all like Desis, and then like Asians, and then like a few overachieving white people.
I wonder what their executive board looks like.
It's probably still all white people though, and they're like, "God damn, these Indians keep coming in here."
That would make it hard for them. So I guess what a lot of people don't know, and I know you probably thought I was going to ask about it. So Samir, you have a very colorful career, I would think, and it's very not typical for like a first generation Indian family person. And I know, like the trope of your parents being disappointed and all that stuff aside, like what I guess did you ever, before you decided to get into something that was different, uh what was your plan?
Dude, I just was like doing whatever my parents told me, the path of least resistance. I never really thought like I would be able to um, do what I wanted to do, and that like their guilt would just be so crushing that I would always just like be miserable. So I was like, whatever, I just give up. Probably when I was like in college. And then after college, I was like working in finance and I was miserable. And I worked there for a few years, like at this bank. I worked for like 3 years and I was like, I hate this. And then I eventually moved out to New York and got involved in like marketing and advertising. And it was so much better. I mean, it was like light years better. I was way more adept to it. I liked it more. And I wound up getting involved in like hip hop for a while, working in like streetwear and hip hop.
So
And it was,
how did you get
oh, dude, that was wild. There was like, I was working at Vice, and there was this company at the same time, like that was like really big in streetwear, and they're called Karmaloop. And they asked me to come in for an interview, and I went in there, and I was like, holy shit, this place is crazy. I at the time Pharrell was the creative director, and there's this other Desi dude named Show Me who was working there.
Yeah.
And I met him and I was like, this is awesome. I like started working there. I left Vice, and me and Show Me just like, yeah, we just like tore it up, man, for like a couple of years out there, and like really did some fun stuff. Yeah.
So so after working at Vice and doing streetwear, I guess that's how you met Pharrell. And then you were working with a lot of artists on their videos, or
Yeah.
I'm not clear about this, but yeah. So
Yeah, so like we're working at Karmaloop, and our thoughts were like, look, we need to create robust content and feature like products and clothing and stuff in the content. And Show Me had mad ties to like the both streetwear and hip hop game, like the rap world. Show Me was like making videos and like already very like close with like Pharrell, with like Chad Hugo, and like all these people from Virginia Beach, like Pusha T and Malice and them. And so like he had already done all this stuff with them. He like knew Drake and all these other people. And so we started making like music videos for different artists, and trying to incorporate product in the music videos, and like that would drive like enough hype for people to be like, yo, where'd they get that? And then they would go on like the site and buy it and stuff. But yeah, we started creating all this content, and Show Me was like lining up all these music videos. And so all of a sudden I was like plunged in the middle of this, and it was a really exciting time. It was really fun. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened, and like it was weird. Like you fall into it pretty quickly. It's like you come in as an outsider, but like the minute you get vetted by one or two people, then like you're around, people know you, and like you're just part of it, instead of being an outsider. It's kind of like anything now. Like if you are hanging around with somebody who's like kind of like at the top of like comedy or whatever, then like people accept you after like the first or second time as like being part of that.
Yeah, very true, very true. So now here's something. When you are coming into that world, and you feel like an outsider, but you're starting to feel less like an outsider. Did you feel like you were getting put into a role, like being in, like you and Shomi being two Indian dudes? Did you feel like that was ever a role that was maybe an asset to the way you were perceived, or was it like a constraint against how you could move within that industry? Or like, obviously, it was a thing. So like, how was it a thing? Or do you remember?
Well, compared to like other circumstances, I think it was really cool and unique. And like, I wasn't like tokenized or anything or fetishized, but there was this like weird shit where they were like, we're just people in general thought we were related, you know? Because they're like, all right, these two, like, they, first of all, Shami is Bengali and I'm Indian, but like, it's the same shit, if you ask me. I mean, it was all like one country at one point, you know? But people like would think that we're like cousins or something. And then sometimes people would think we're the same person and like we're a world apart. I'm like I don't know, like a foot taller maybe or something, or like 6 feet taller and like 120 pounds heavier or something than show me.
Literally the same thing happens to us.
Yeah.
A couple years
and like, oh, what's up, love? And I'll be like, I'm Samir. Like,
You never just like rolled with it. You're like, yeah.
No. I mean, yes. In the comedy community, people mistake you and me, but I'm talking about me and Fani. Literally, the same thing has happened to us for the last 10, 12 years. For the last
no way, dude.
couple of years in New York, we just go ahead and tell people we're cousins. We're like, this is my cousin, or this is just my little brother. It's so much easier for people to digest. You have to.
It's so much, but that's so weird, right? Like, why can't we just be two Indian people that hang out together? It's a strange thing, you know. But other than that, though, they were like really cool, man. Like it's interesting. Like I think if it was a more white centric like industry and world or whatever that we were working in, like it might be like more of a tokenization or like otherness. But I think like rap was very inclusive and cool. Compared to other places I've like been.
So now you made two big career kind of shifts. I would say, like, first with the marketing, then getting into the streetwear and the hip hop world, but then you went into comedy after that. So I know we've talked about this, but maybe you can talk to us about it here. Like, I know that you had reservations, obviously, and comedy was a thing you always wanted to do. And I mean, now you're years into it. But, before jumping into it from, all like the hip hop stuff and marketing, what went in your mind? And how old were you? And
yeah, that's actually crazy. So like I was doing that and doing comedy at the same time. So I moved to New York and got into marketing and all that. But the real reason I moved to New York was comedy.
Okay.
I did this basically I started comedy in Boston. I was doing comedy and I convinced myself that I wanted to go to med school without like my parents pushing me or anything. I randomly was like, I think it's time for me to go to med school. So I had to take the prerequisites. So I went to like Harvard for the like certificate to get like all those prerequisites done, And so like I only went for a year. But that year, dude, I was getting my ass kicked. I was like taking organic chemistry, physics, like all this shit at the same time. And like always either in class or in lab or doing homework, yeah. And I was like, this is hell on earth. And meanwhile, I was doing stand-up. I was like just beginning to try stand-up. And I was like, yeah, this is fire. I love this. And so I abandoned that program after my first year. My parents were so pissed. And like that summer, I had a show with Uzzer.
Yeah.
Uzzer Usman. And like all these other dudes like Dean Abedallah and like Aaron Cater and like a few other people. We did the show at MIT and there was like 800 people or something. Like wow. I think it was really like 500 people because like it was run by Desi people and they were like hyping the numbers really hard. But it was at least 500, yeah. They were saying it was 800 until like it was time to pay us. Then all of a sudden they were like, no, it was like 100 people. But anyways, there's mad people and my parents were there and my parents like saw me perform and stuff. They talked to like Dane and Uzzer after, and they were like, "Oh, he has a future in comedy, you know." And then my dad was like, "You could make money doing comedy." And I was like, "Yeah, some people make a lot of money." And he was like, "You should just do comedy then." And then I was like, "Oh shit! Well, I need to." I like gave myself the task of finding like a job, moving to New York, supporting myself. So like, even though finally my parents supported me, my dad like was like, meaning supported my endeavor, not like financially supported me, because like those are two separate things. But he was like, you should go to New York and focus on comedy. And then when I got to New York, I was like, yo, I need to work. Like I need to get a job. I'm like struggling. I was broke as hell. And so I started working at Vice and, working in like marketing there. And then that's when I got into hip hop and stuff. But meanwhile, at night I was going to shows, like putting on my own shows, like all that stuff. So I was juggling all that at the same time. Yeah.
King Hustle.
Yeah, and I met Cypher Sounds back then. He had just started trying to do comedy and stuff. So he was like pretty brand new, and like he would like message me, text me and stuff and be like, "Yo, come to my show." And I went to a couple actually because I knew like the Hot 97 guys. Like I met them at like the morning show with like him and Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Well, I went there like when French Montana was in town because I was like interviewing French Montana for something. So we met at Hot 97 in the morning, and he was like already drinking C-Rock at like 9:30 in the morning. It was nuts, dude. I was like drinking like a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, and I looked over, and he had like a bunch of bottles of C-Rock and like fucking, I don't know if he was like actually drinking them or if he was just carrying them around. But then we went to his like wherever he was staying like after, and like I did this whole interview. It's fucking crazy. And we talk about like mushrooms and stuff. And yeah, I don't know why I went on that tirade.
I'll look for the link and I'll throw it up on the thing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like fucking crazy.
Okay, so Fani put me onto something about the Jungle Book. So the Jungle Book, written by this dude Rudyard Kipling, colonial British dude. But what were you saying, Fani? What is it actually? What were the stories actually taken from?
There were snippets and stuff that I found in the Hitapadesha, which is like an old like Aesop's Fables type of stuff.
Right.
And they're very similar. And I feel like, I'm not going to say, he got his material from there, but, you see some striking similarities and you can start kind of connecting some dots like, oh, like I read this before. And it just seemed interesting. But I think Rudyard also kind of grew up in India, right?
Yeah. He was born in India.
Yeah. So he probably, like he definitely.
Right, like colonial India.
It's kind of fucked. Like he's technically Indian.
Serving him.
He's like technically Indian, but he was like white.
Yeah. So he probably grew up hearing the same kind of stories, from people around his.
From his servants.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like his nokers. He was like just chilling with them, and they're like telling him old Indian stories.
They're like, my son wrote this story about a kid in the jungle. Would you like to read it?
He's like, yeah, and I'll publish it and make zillions of dollars. Actually, he wrote White Man's Burden, didn't he?
I have no clue.
Yeah, he did. And it was like a satire. It was about like colonialism.
Oh man, you're gonna okay.
Yeah, The White Man's Burden, a poem by Rudyard Kipling.
Well, damn, I guess we'll throw that up and probably change my mind about Rudyard Kipling now.
Yeah. I can't tell I can't remember if it was like.
So, I don't know. I was kind of trying to set that up as like a transition to, now we've established, you're in comedy, you're in storytelling. You used to write for HBO and other shows. Crazy career, right? But in terms of writing and telling stories and the authenticity in stories of like, not just Indian representation, but really representation of first generation people of immigrants where there's like a variety or diversity of character types, which we don't necessarily see because we always see it filtered through like an all white writing staff or production team, you know, and so we don't necessarily get the stories from the people, but we just get the stories visually, and that's enough. So going forward, when you're making narratives and everything, how conscious are you of that kind of thing, making sure you portray like a variety in diversity?
I think it's important. Like, I think if you're writing a New York story, it's like incomplete if it just like tells a story of like a single race or like a single group of people, because we're so juxtaposed like next to each other and we are surrounded by people of all different walks of life and races and stuff. The other thing is, I think right now in the industry, they're constantly talking about diversity and diversification and how they can like implement diversity within their projects and upcoming like fund upcoming projects that are more like people of color, yada yada. But I think there's like an element of that that's just optics.
Yeah.
And for that reason, like they're looking for Indian stories, but who are they? And it's usually like white people or like a team of rich, like white folks that have been successful in entertainment thus far. So it's not going to change things if they're, it almost can resemble like the exploitative nature of the past too. It's like, before they would like take our stories or our point of view and then not even incorporate us, and they would have like a dude with the tan play like an Indian guy, you know what I mean? And like, so we took the story from like a real Indian person, paid them off shittily, and then we hired a tan guy to play fucking Aladdin or something, things like that, you know what I mean? Like, and so now it's like, if they're going to incorporate people and give people work and stuff in entertainment, that's great. But like, also we should be able to find and produce our own stories and be in control of kind of like all facets of production, you know? I'd love to see like an all brown cast, and or not all brown, but super majority potentially, or whatever. The flip side of what the going rate was, you know? Like growing up, people would always tell me like, not even growing up, sorry, like in my 20s or something, all of a sudden we were seeing Indian people on TV, and Indian people like kind of pick up in the comedy scene too. And people would be like, oh man, like Aziz Ansari like is blowing up, like it's too bad, you could have been like that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you saying there's only room for one Indian person like right now?
Why is it that people assume that kind of thing is a zero-sum trade-off?
It's really weird. It's like, sure, you can have representation, and by that we mean one person, you know, where like we come in all shapes and sizes and all like personality types and all that shit. So like, why is it that there isn't just one superhero white dude? Why isn't there just like one comedian white dude, you know?
Yeah.
And so hopefully things are trending upward and like getting better in that respect, you know?
Reimagine the show Friends, same cast, same storylines, everything, all brown and black production cast.
Right?
All brown and black writers' room. Imagine what the show Friends would be like then.
Dude, each character would be getting a phone call. Like the whole episode would just be each of them getting a phone call from their moms being like, why aren't you married? And like, you're embarrassing us. And like, why do you work at a coffee shop? What the fuck are you doing? We paid for your education.
All around the world would think that that's what white culture is.
Everyone's mom would call them. They'd get like immediate anxiety. And they'd pick up the phone and then they'd be like whispering, like, yeah, mom, no, like in public.
10
and
minutes.
Mom would be like, I saw like so-and-so's mom, so-and-so auntie. She was asking about you. I told her you work at the Central Perk. I tried to lie and say that it was an IT place. You need to get a real job. You're humiliating us.
Serving people coffee. 10 minutes of every episode is just like the zoom in reactions on everybody's face.
Oh my god. Like in Bollywood, in like those Indian soaps.
Yeah, that they all film in the same
Dude,
Studio City, in the same location. They film all of those serials together.
dude, those cutaways to the reactions are the best things on earth.
They literally take up like 11 minutes of each episode.
Dude, whenever a lady gets a chata from like a mother-in-law, she spins like 15 times and like goes backwards, and goes like and like spins in circles. And it's just one smash, like one tupper.
And then they at least do a flashback to that at least 15 times in the next.
Yeah. And then it's everyone else's reactions, and there's always like the like Dada guy who's always like, and it's like menacing music. Oh man, that'd be amazing.
Man, yeah, but so thinking about representation and all of that, I know that that's kind of like a driving force for why people that kind of look like us are doing a lot of different creative things. That's kind of I've been trying to branch out more and like trying to reach out to more like Indian people or whoever that are just in the entertainment industry, and just because I know we all have similar shared experiences. Like we can all talk about the times we're randomly security searched or this or that, but these things
Randomly. Can't believe they tried to play that. They'd be like, I'm sure you're being randomly searched. I'm like, I get fucking randomly searched every time. How does that stay random?
How am I the only one in my group of 20 people that keep getting
Yeah,
searched
dude.
13 times on a one layover flight?
I thought it'd be like hilarious if a bunch of like brown people bought tickets for the same flight and then went through security at the same time, and they're like, God damn it. They're like, you've been randomly searched. You've been randomly searched. You've been randomly searched. Like as they go down the line, the whole place.
For a while.
We can't randomly search them all.
Yeah.
When Funny and I used to hang out a lot a few years ago, we used to talk about a lot of this colonial stuff, and he blew my mind once with this thought, and kind of turned it into metaphor. So I think, Funny, you want to talk about what that is?
You're talking about that chair thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started reading a lot about like how things were back before, like I guess it would be pre-colonial times, and just like in one of my readings, I started sharing stuff with Love, and there was a funny little bit about the chair and how it was like an invention, like a colonial invention, before the European settlers came into India, people were just generally sitting on the ground, or even if they had, like you've seen those old school throne type of things, but they're all on the ground. It's like a divan or something. And this yogi is talking to this European guy. Just from most of what I've read, they all come to India for spiritual purposes, right? Or, mainly like trying to get a better understanding of like yoga, whatever most people think yoga is. And there's this one instance where this yogi is talking to this European settler guy, and he's telling him how it's important to breathe and everything and sit properly. And one of the sitting things was you have to sit on the ground, like Indian style. Like it opens up your spine in a certain way, and it helps you breathe better. There's like a whole yogic science behind this sitting on the ground deal.
Right.
It blows the European dude's mind, and he's talking about, that's just, like, couldn't possibly be that simple. And he tries to do it, and he's told to just start practicing sitting on the ground first for like days. And this is all from this book called Search and Secret India. It was written in the 1800s something, but
This guy is urging, it's about the civility of not sitting on the ground, whereas the science behind sitting on the ground is like good for your posture, good for your health, whatever, all that bullshit. But like the civility undercuts that. So in essence, the chair is like a colonial invention, and it's like it gives us back problems, it gives us all of that. And you think about it more, maybe it's a reach, but it's like that's a perfect visual metaphor for ungrounding us.
Right. That's really interesting. Like, I had no idea about that, but also, like, if you go to India right now, like, there's just people chilling in lungis, squatting down. Like, everyone just sits by squatting, which blows my mind. Like,
Why is the toilet not a chair?
right.
Everywhere in the
Well, you know how, like, white people try to create squatty potties? I'm like, bro, you're just reverse engineering, like, the hole in the floor.
but they still have the privilege of sitting their ass down.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just barbaric to do that. You know, it's just it's not proper.
Some of those toilets are pretty barbaric, though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Depending on who you are, for sure.
You ever go on a moving train?
Dude, are you kidding me?
That, like, have you ever been on like a bus and then you stopped at like a random bus stop?
No, I
Oh,
okay, yeah, never mind. But it was a charter bus, but it's still gross.
it's mental. I've never been on a bus in India. I'd rather just light myself on fire, you know? But I have been on the trains numerous times, and it makes me sick. First of all, they're late as hell, no matter what, for no reason. And they go like 4 miles an hour.
Well, they're not late. They just run on, IST, like Indian Standard Time.
Yeah, exactly. And so like a trip that is like 200 kilometers will take like 16 hours. Like how is that possible? It's like you're moving backwards or something.
Stop, and you gotta have the chai breaks. Like
Yeah.
chai breaks.
They get on, they're like, chai wala, chai wala, chai wala. And you're like, shut the fuck up, dude. It's 2:00 in the morning.
Yo, the other day we were actually talking about like stopping at dhabas to get the food, and it's like there was literally one time I went with my parents, maybe about 1,000 miles all across the country. We stopped at so many dhabas. I didn't get sick from one of them. I got sick from eating Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as the food is like fresh and freshly cooked, the likelihood is you won't get sick. But also you can't eat like vegetables there because they wash them with the water. And the water has like typhoid in it. So you're like, fuck. If you eat like a cucumber, you're like screwed.
The water's probably got coronavirus now too.
It's got ancient diseases. Like polio.
That's where Alien versus Predator starts from.
They're all like immune.
Yo, and it starts with, maybe we could talk about that white dude, he renamed himself like Mrikar Singh or something, and what he does is he bottles up water from the Ganga River and sells it unfiltered to people. And right now, like, the biggest problem people are having with him is just that he's selling unfiltered water and like putting people's the health at risk. But he's just like, this is yoga, this is cleanliness and spiritual living.
Is that to drink or like pour over yourself?
For whatever purposes, but he wants to sell it for like $40 a container or something.
I'm like, dude, I would do neither of those things. Have you been to the Ganga recently? It's a mess.
Oh, gross.
Dude, I went like 3 years ago. I was so bummed out. It's really, really bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know the one day like of the year where everyone makes like a pilgrimage to the Ganga, takes like a dip?
Yeah.
We were like there, like and we had to go across the Ganga. So like, I just saw like just such brutality in that river. Also, Vice did this hilarious interview where like, I think it was like Krishna, he like went to India and he was talking to like the guy who's in charge of cleaning up the Ganga.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, like there's like 3 million gallons of filth pumped into the Ganga every day. Like, what are you doing about it? And the guy was like, nothing, because Ganga cleans itself. He goes, Ganga is holy, it cleans only itself only. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? It was so Indian, it was insane. I gotta find that link. That it was devastating. They were like showing all of the pollution going into the Ganga. Also, dude, you got dead bodies in there. You've got like people are washing their clothes, people are pissing in there, people are shitting in there. It's bonkers. You know, like there's Catfish
in bottles and selling it to other white people and making
yeah, that too. Dude, there's Catfish in there that are like 7.5, 8 feet, and they swallow children whole, dude, in a matter of seconds. Yeah.
No.
Holy
Dead serious. And the reason all started was because the remains, like, so the cremation remains, they started eating those and then started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no predators in there to keep them from growing. And like, yeah, dude. So there's a rash of kids going missing from the Gunga. Like all of a sudden you'd see them, all of a sudden they're gone and they vanished. And then River Monsters, that dude went there and he was fucking fishing for those giant ass catfish that have been eating kids.
I think you and I just got a great indie horror movie idea to run.
Yeah.
The Gunga just turned catfish into piranhas? Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, dude, they swallow them whole though. They're fucking huge.
That's
Wow.
absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's all right. So, I guess another thing we wanted to get into.
Talked about. I'm sorry, love. I'm still kind of in shock about this. How is this not more talked about? I feel like
Well, I guess catfish are they're like goldfish. They're like bottom feeders. So they don't have, what is the thing called, like senescence, where it's like a thing that stops you from growing. So it's a biological thing. So like mushrooms don't have senescence or something, so they can grow indefinitely, and maybe catfish and goldfish do. That's why you see like those pictures of those dinner plate sized goldfish. Is this a thing? This is a thing, right? Am I not?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So that is nuts. What?
Yeah, man. It was
They just developed a taste for children because people were going through the religious rites.
Here it is.
What, dude? I just got this link that Samir sent me on
Hold on. This is the River Monsters episode. You guys should watch that shit.
2008. This thing swallowed like an 18-year-old Nepali.
Yeah. Dude, it's like eating people like in one gulp.
What?
Yeah, in season 9, he goes to Nepal.
Wow. Yeah, we'll definitely link this in the comments for everyone if you're listening or watching.
Dude, it looks, yeah.
If it's not just our cousins that are watching this.
Yeah. Whatever, everyone needs to know the truth.
That is nuts.
But this happened in 2008, and it just like kind of got hushed down or something. I've never.
Yeah,
I remember watching that episode and being like, holy shit, what is going on? Like in India, you know?
That white dude's probably lobbying the Indian government to keep this hush hush because he's got his water selling business.
Because mad people still go to the Ganga and do the whole thing for the pilgrimage, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Probably training the catfish to eat other people that are trying to get bottled water.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a part of reincarnation or something. You just like get eaten by this catfish and you like come out with this dope life afterwards. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
That's insane.
Yeah, man.
You know, I want to do this photo series. So when I did that trip all around the country, we were going to the Jyotirlings. There are 12 Jyotirlings in India. They're like the super religious sites. We went to like 8 of them, and every one of them, it was like mad white people cosplaying. They were like Indians because they had like on the dhotis and they had like on their
They're rocking like lungis and then they like don't shower and you're like, yo, just FYI, Indian people bathe and stuff.
Yeah, so I wanted to make like a photo series. At the time, I had like a really bad phone. It wasn't an iPhone, or it might have been iPhone 2, I think. So at the time, I had an iPhone 2, and I was just taking photos. But I think I want to go again and try to retake photos. But I want to make a photo series called like Finding White People Finding Themselves. And it's just like photos of them in these temples, these like thousands of years old temples just dressed up. Like, dressed up in all sorts of Indian garb. While you see all the Indian people wearing like polo shirts.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like a reversal. Like they're wearing like polo shirts, and the like white people are wearing like lungis, and like you're like, yo, what is going on? Like, is this like Freaky Friday? What happened?
They bring their yoga mats to the tree that Buddha found enlightenment under.
That's near my dad's house.
That's nuts.
Yeah, Srinagar, dude.
Yeah,
Or no, Kushi. Srinagar's in
there
Kashmir.
was Bodh. Bodh, I don't know, something.
Yeah, did you go there?
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's dope.
that was years ago, and I'm drawing a blank, so it's probably not a good thing.
So two things, I was wrong. Kushinagar is where Buddha attained parinirvana after his death.
Okay,
Yeah, so the place where he found enlightenment was different, probably.
it's like Bodh Gaya, right?
Yeah, probably. And then the thing about Rudyard Kipling, actually, he is a piece of shit. White man's burden is not sarcastic. He literally thought it was white man's burden to like quote unquote tame the savages and colonialize them and make them like British people.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole thing even behind the chair thing, right? So the British people.
I remember, yeah, Fani shared a passage with me from something a little while ago where this British dude was like, yeah, we got their teas and we got their spices and we got a lot of value out of that. But, there's these old people in the mountains that are doing this thing called yoga. And there's I know there's some value there, but they're wearing diapers and sitting on the floor. So I don't like that. But there's spiritual value. And I know we need the value. And I don't think the barbarians need to have access to higher thoughts.
Yeah, like the whole mysticism and the Orientalism thing. Like they couldn't believe how there's these yogis that could live to 150 years or 200 years. Or there's some stories some people tell in villages, like, oh yeah, there's some dude that lives in the mountains, he's been living there for 400 years or something. And anybody would just go, how is that possible? But if you really want to know, I guess you'd start tracking down these yogis. And then it still amazes me how yogis talk to some of these people. I don't know if they're playing around with them or if they're actually giving them information oh you want to learn about our culture or something, we'll share our secrets or something with you, even though it's a very hard discipline. I don't know if any of you tried to meditate, but that is one of the hardest things for me to do. I can't even imagine
I have never tried to meditate, but there's countless times people have asked me how to meditate and I've pretended like I've known.
Yeah, I enjoy it, but I don't do it nearly enough. But it really does show evidence of it having worked. It strengthens parts of people's brain, and it will show up on a CAT scan.
Yeah, there's credible research behind this, and also
or MRI. No, CAT scan, right?
Might be MRI or something. I don't even know. Yeah, this is the reason I didn't know.
Comments below.
I'm just talking nonsense this whole time. I'm I don't know, Rudyard Kipling, great guy. And I'm never mind, he's a piece of shit. But you guys, I gotta actually get going shortly.
Yo, so yes, thank you for coming on. We had another segment, but we don't have to do it. Cool.
Yo, good to meet you, dude.
Good to meet you too, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man.
All right, peace out.
Hit me.
All right, later.